well today. So we are live Friday afternoon. Let me just put the correct banner up on screen. There we go. Hope you're well today. We've sat outside in the garden, looking very nice. See the pool behind us. That's nice. It's still being cleaned. Should be ready to go in a week or two, hopefully. And if I'm a little bit dark, it's because I'm sat under the sunshade. It's so warm today. It's like 27 degrees, which is awesome. I'm not going to argue about how warm it is. So in this session, I want to talk to you about net worth and why you got to stop thinking about what your net worth is, okay? But the reason why this came about was I was on a live broadcast last week, and just as I was pressing end, one of the comments came up and said, "What's your net worth?" And I was going to respond on that, and I thought, you know what? I'm actually going to not respond on that particular one. If I move into the middle here, by the way, that should help in the brightness. There we go. And I thought, I'm not going to answer that question on that specific session. I wanted to do that in the Mindset and Hustle show, because this is really a mindset shift that I think you need to kind of understand. So look, you can focus on net worth because it's a nice little ego boosting thing. Have you got £1 million? And some people say, well, if you're a millionaire, you should have £1 million in your bank. I don't know any millionaires who've got £1 million in the bank, by the way. The millionaires that I know, all their money is tied up in assets that generates cash flow. Okay, so I'll say that again. It's really important. All of their assets are tied up, or their cash is tied up in assets that provide cash flow. Excuse me. Cash flow is where you need to be at. I can't eat net worth. I can't drive my net worth to the basketball court. I can't send my kid to school based on net worth. Okay. I can, however, eat off my cash flow. I can drive to the basketball court using cash flow to pay for the car. I can send my kid to school using the cash flow from the assets. And so if you're solely focused on your net worth, it can change your decision-making process, not for the better. And I think that your decision-making process should be based on cash flow. So I know people who are millionaires and they're having to work 60 hours a week because their cash flow doesn't cover all their expenses. Well, that's crazy. Why would you be a millionaire with assets the difference of a millionaire is how much your assets are worth and how much is owed. So if you own £5 million of property and you owe 4.5 million, you've got £500,000 of equity, of net worth. That is your net worth. So you take everything that you owe, you deduct everything that you own, in terms of debts and that kind of thing. That's your net worth. So if you've got £5 million of property and £4 million debt, technically you're a millionaire. Well, it's a little bit, depends on the day of the week, doesn't it? Because prices of properties go up and down. Prices of gold goes up and down. And so, if you've got £1 million worth of gold and it's sat there in your little bank, in your little vault, are you a millionaire? Well, you can't eat it. You could sleep on it. Won't be very comfortable, but you can't drive it. You can't go on holiday with it. What are you going to use £1 million worth of gold for? So you might technically be a millionaire, but it makes no difference because you can't do anything with it. So what's the point? So cash flow is where it could be. I would rather have 10 grand a month every single month than £5 million worth of net worth. I say it again because it's like, this is the bit that people are missing out on. It's almost like, turnover is vanity, profit is sanity. It's like net worth is vanity. It's just a vanity number. It's like it makes no difference. You could be worth 10 million or you could be worth £1. Both of them are completely arbitrary numbers that are surrounding no value at all. There's no value in being a multi-millionaire person unless you got cash flow. And cash flow is what's going to get you through it. So I was looking at Lamborghinis yesterday, and I was just kind of half looking. I was kind of thinking, ooh, Lamborghini, ooh, like you do, okay. And then kind of like, I'm 47. By the time the Lambo's paid off, it's basically 20 grand down, £1 a month, over 4 years. And then I'm like, in 4 years' time, I'm going to be like 51, 52, climbing out of a Lamborghini with my bad back and my knees not working properly. And, it's nice to have one, but seriously? We just had the conversation this morning of what an idiot you look at age 51 driving a Lamborghini. Apologies to anyone who drives Lamborghinis at 51, but you know what I mean, right? It's not quite, it's kind of a thing in the 30s, but then no one can afford them in the 30s. We almost bought one, by the way, which we were going to hire out in my early 30s. We had a Porsche hire company, and a friend of mine ran a Ferrari hire company. We were renting out these exotic cars, including my car as well. And the hire just basically paid for the Porsche and that kind of thing. Loads of fun. And we were going to buy a Lambo 80 grand Spider. I think it was, it was an 80 grand loan and 20 grand down. That was it. So we were putting 10 grand in each. But like, I couldn't, if I wanted to buy a Lambo, it's a grand every single month. If I'm earning 10 grand a month, I can do that. And that's not too much of a problem. But if you've got £1 million worth of equity, but you haven't got any cash flow, you can't buy exotic cars. You can't go on exotic holidays. You can't stay in nice places. I was having a conversation with a friend just before we went live about spending a grand a night in Ibiza, for example. Because, once the lockdown lifts, people are going to go out spending money. And in the olden days, I'd like, a grand a night, 3 nights, that's £3,000. Now it's like, okay, maybe we might want to do that, okay? But the only reason we can do that is because the cash flow works. It's got nothing to do with your net worth. And so I think people are taught to think that net worth is the goal. I want to be a millionaire. This time next year, Rodney, we'll be millionaires. And by the way, when that program was recorded, when that saying came out, $1 million 25 years ago, 30 years ago was worth so much more money than $1 million today. It makes no difference. A Mars bar was 4 pence back then. Fish and chips were 35 pence. Fish and chips now is £3.50 in Leeds. At least in London, it's £7. I don't know what it is, right? It's been fish and chips. Missing English food right now. But it's irrelevant what your net worth is if you can't have any cash to afford the stuff that you want. It's completely irrelevant. And so actually, we're looking now. Do we continue paying down the mortgages on properties, which are Bank of England base rate right now is 0.10%. 0.1, not even 1%, 0.1%. So I could take the money that we're generating every month and use that to pay off more debt off the properties. But actually, what's the point? Including the bank's little bit, plus the Bank of England bit, you're talking about 2.5%, 2% maybe. What's the point on paying off £100,000 when it's going to save you 2 grand a year? It just doesn't even make sense, does it? Whereas you can put that 100 grand into something that's going to generate more cash flow, 5 grand, 6 grand, 7 grand every single month. And by this, I'm talking about investing in business or mini HMOs or anything that generates cash. And actually, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to pay down the rest of the mortgages just yet. A couple we might do, because they're going to need to be refinanced fairly soon. The next 5 years to 7 years, I should say. But actually, we might just pay them down completely. 120 grand here, 120 grand there for those ones that are coming to the end of their mortgage term. We might do that. So that gives us 5 to 7 years to work out, okay, we've got 5 years, let's say £250,000. What are we going to generate to pay that off? What business are we going to invest in? What are we going to create asset-wise? We've got a business that's going through right now that turns over about £2 million a year, and we should have completed it in April. It's a business that we're buying, and obviously coronavirus, everything's kind of locked down, so we're not able to complete on that. It should happen in the next couple of months, hopefully. And the whole point of that is to generate cash flow, to move that cash flow into the next thing. You see, when you get beyond the point of having to get up and go to work to have the money coming to pay for your house and your bills and your car and your petrol, when that's covered, and that's the whole point of investing in assets in the first place, when that's covered, then you can move on to the more interesting stuff. And actually, a game that I'd highly recommend is Robert Kiyosaki's CASHFLOW 101. Has anybody played that game? I played it, last played it in Santorini at an event called Billionaire Bootcamp with Chris Howard. And I played this game lots and lots of times. And by the way, if the screen's going dark, it's because I'm moving in and out of sunlight and things. But we played that game, like, it must have been 2 or 3 years ago. And I've played that game 10 years ago. And I still get fresh learnings about what I should be doing with money, where I should be moving it, about the importance of cash flow instead of net worth. Net worth doesn't mean anything. It's just a bit of something on a piece of paper. I saw Kanye West complaining because he was now a billionaire, but he's like, no, it's 3 billion. It's like, nobody cares if it's 1 or 3 billion. It's like, there's only 2 billion difference. Getting to the billion, that's the key. But like, why is it the key? It's not the key. Being a billionaire doesn't pay for your yacht. It's the cash flow that pays for the yacht. So you've got to focus on the cash flow. And again, this is, revenue is about vanity. Revenue is about Well, we're doing £1 million a year. Great. How much money are you making? What's your cash flow every single month? Can you spend £1,000 a month on a Lambo? And think about this, by the way. If your company's doing £1 million a month, you should be able to spend £1,000 on a Lambo, because it's, as a proportion of £1 million revenue, it's a tiny amount. But you can't do it if a business isn't making any money. If a business doesn't make monthly cash flow, you can't do any of that. And I'm not saying, by the way, that you should even be going out and buying Lambos. You should be going out and buying assets to generate more cash, and the cash that is generated from the assets, like property, that's the money that you use to buy the toys. You don't buy toys using cash flow from a business. You buy toys from cash flow from an asset, and an asset isn't a business. Like, assets are businesses, but in this situation, an asset for cash flow is stocks and shares, or it's property, real estate. Or it could be something that you put money into and it generates a cash flow monthly, then you can do it. So if you find 5 businesses and we're making £200 a month each, you got 5 of them, there's £1,000, there's your Lambo. That's exactly perfect, not a problem. But not if you're having to physically work in that business. So this is the path. You create a business. The business generates cash flow. You use that cash flow, you save it up. That buys an asset that generates more cash flow. You buy your toys from that cash flow. You pay your mortgage from that cash flow, or your rent, or what, we rent here, for example. You pay your school fees from that cash flow, your food from that cash flow. You don't buy toys or stuff or phones with cash flow from your business. Like, unless it's specifically for the business and it's a business phone or something like that. It's totally the wrong way of doing it. So you generate cash in a business, you move that cash into assets, and the assets pay for your lifestyle. The reason why we do this is that your assets will always be there in the next 25, 30, 40, 50 years, and then you can put them in a trust, and then you can pass them on for generational wealth. That's the whole point of you having a business in the first place, is to generate cash flow, goes into assets, your assets generate cash flow, that's what you live off. And I can say this till I'm blue in the face, and I still see people, obviously not everyone listens to me, but very few people do. But I see them, they're buying exotic cars using cash flow from the business, and things are going great this year, and then coronavirus hits and they've lost everything. And you could say, well, Dan, it's the same on property. Our property's doing all right. I've had a couple of obstacles, but generally, on the whole scheme of things, our assets that generate our lifestyle, it's done all right. With payment holidays if we need them, but generally, we're 93% up on last month. Not up, we're 93% of rental income, but expected 93% of that came in, which is all right. We can live with that. We've got 2 empty flats right now, and I'm hoping we'll get those rented one way or another. Those assets are still performing perfectly. Businesses, however, this is another reason for having multiple businesses in different formats. As long as you're not running each business and you have to be physically there in the office, then you running several businesses is going to work just fine for you. So what you should be doing right now, what you should be focusing on is not net worth. What you should be focusing on is, how can I increase my cash flow in my business to generate savings over the next 12 months that I can then buy an asset, and then the asset is what I live off. Let me give you another example. Let's say you love Starbucks coffee and you want to have a lifetime supply of Starbucks coffee. Okay, so I don't know how much money you spend. Let's just say you spend, you buy 2 coffees a month from Starbucks. Let's just say, I can do the maths on this one. Put £1,000 into AT&T. They pay a 6% per year dividend. That's £60 a year. Divided by 12, £5, £2.50 a coffee. 2 coffees a month, and it's completely paid for the rest of your life. £1,000 will give you 3 coffee for the rest of your life. Imagine that. Then imagine, and I don't agree with, by the way, with buying stocks in petroleum businesses. But let's say you bought BP and you bought £20,000 worth of BP. I don't know what the yield is on BP, but you could get free petrol for life because you put a big lump sum into BP. That pays you a quarterly dividend, or a bi-yearly dividend, or an annual dividend, and you spend that money on your petrol. That's your petrol fund. You never have to buy petrol again because BP are basically paying you every year that you can then spend on petrol. That's how all this thing should work. So the lesson from this Don't focus on net worth. Focus on cash flow. Build your cash flow up from your business. Move that cash flow into assets. Live off the money from the assets. And that will do us for today. Hope that's useful for you. We'll catch up with you on Monday in the Business Growth Show. My name's Dan Latto. Have yourselves a good weekend. I will speak to you soon. Take care.